Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, everyone. And I'm here to make a couple of closing remarks for the Ramadan session. And those of you all that are still here, I know you have flights to catch and travels to get back home. Most of us have responsibility starting tomorrow, work, family, and everything like that. And I just want to express my sincere love and thanks and gratefulness to the committee and those of you all who helped to plan this Mosque sponsored Ramadan session and to make it the success that it has been for 21 years. Now the committee has been involved since 2008, so it's about 10 years now, and you all have been doing an excellent job. You haven't missed a beat, and we've been evolving to better and better. I agree with Imam Hamid Rasul that we've evolved to better and better sessions, and the quality and of the sessions are good, but I used to say this in the first maybe 4 or 5 years. I used to push and push and push, and I said, well, if you keep stressing something and people not really responding, then I might maybe asking more than they can handle, But you should always want to do better, and like we're doing with Imam Muhammad's tapes, because of the technology and the availability of digital, that the demand for the CDs and DVDs are not as much as they used to be, because people have switched from that format to downloads. So we're doing downloads. The Mosque site, we have CD Baby at the WDM publication, which is a site that manages that in iTunes, and you can download CDs and DVDs there and make purchases without having to purchase a physical copy. But we are still encouraging those imams that give lectures to do a scholarly effort. Most of your notes can be organized, and when you're done with your speech, if your notes, you can listen to your tape and review your notes and put scholarly organize your session so that others can view it and read it, possibly in the Muslim Journal at the least, or just for future studies on paper. That's the best way. That never gets old, and the technology won't change, because technology, they can change that overnight. And 10 years from now, your kids will be asking you, what's a CD? What's a DVD?
Right.
Like my children, they say, what's a VHS?
Right.
I got a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. They probably know. They pretty, because I have all that stuff at the house. It's digital now, so they hear that. That sounds foreign, or antique to them, which it is. The the cassette tape and the VHS that's old news. Yes, sir.
You think we could possibly do a book with?
No, without a doubt, I know we can. We should be on our 10th Ramadan session book. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Because the sessions that Muslims have around the world, and that's why they look at us and say and believe we're unsophisticated and uneducated. I said, we're educated. We just burdened by the weight of the world, and we don't have the freedom that they have.
Right.
And we don't have none of the money they have.
Right.
So, they can call us stupid and uneducated all they want. But they know what we had. And they know what the effort it took, that billions was spent to shut us down.
That's right.
They know the effort it took to slow us down, but we ain't shut down.
That's right.
We just been crippled and handicapped, but we recovering like that guy that terminated, that regenerated.
Right.
Every time something hit him, I'm beginning to think we like him, because every time they hit us with something, we still here. We still here, and we still making strides and progress, and keeping our human form. That's what he would do. No matter what they did to him, he would go back to his human form. That was funny to me, but it's also something to think about. That Allah's mercy. That when Allah's in control, there's nothing that can stop you. When Allah wants to, has a plan for you, and Allah has a plan for us, and the plan is to bring us back to, restore us back to our full place in the human family where we deserve, and not just that, but to redeem us and to put us as an example for the world of His great mercy and His majesty. Oh yeah, and we're there. We're there. We just got a little ways to go before we're satisfied, and because Imam Muhammad showed us the future. He showed us the future, and gave us the tools that we need to get there. And so we know we got a little more work to do, but we're well on our way. We're well on our way, and I agree with you, Imam, 100% that we're going to be successful, and we're going to have that community that Imam Muhammad was working for before he passed, and can continue, because he told us. And the structure that you're talking about, we don't have no doubt. You're not going to, it's not like those ministers you were talking about. Yeah. I was probably too young. I never saw them, and never knew them, but I know there were imams around that came from that, and that the troublemakers. But this is a new day. You're not going to get much resistance at all. You might expect resistance, but pretty soon it's going to be such a quiet resistance where you're going to say, "Hey, that's not happening today," because Allah is doing away with the trouble and the hypocrites. You wouldn't believe. Oh, I actually want to start talking before that tape come on, but I won't do that. Maybe I have to talk to you all when the tape ain't on. But Chicago, y'all know this, but there are people that's got power in this area, and the reason why they have power over our community, because the Nation of Islam was such a powerful organization, and under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and 40 some odd years, it's like maybe it's in their DNA, their loyalty to headquarters here, and their loyalty to certain figures and certain minds and influences. And Imam Muhammad, he didn't focus on it, but they gave him trouble his whole, from the minute he stepped into office to Allah took his physical body from us. They gave him trouble, and you think they stopped now? Well, they didn't step their game up now. Now, when you tell them, I talked to them and told them. I said, I talked to them to their face. I said, I don't have no friends, not in family, not in this community, not amongst the leaderships of the Imam. I said, you done ran them all away. Not one person. This is a mindset, and I say it to all of them, because they ask me stuff. I said, how am I supposed to know about that? I don't know about that. Did you get a fruit basket? Did you get this? Did you go to the so-and-so? How am I supposed to know about that? Or are you going to so-and-so's funeral? Why would I go to? I said, I knew them. I know of them. I know them, but I'm not from that circle, I said, if I need to remind you, I didn't go to the University of Islam. I went to Claire Muhammad School. And before Imam Muhammad became leader, I needed to go to school. He sent me to Catholic school. He sent me to Montessori school. Yeah, and it was a great experience, because if anybody know about the Montessori schools, they're ethnically diverse. They're extremely diverse. When I was there, it almost looked like those television shows, the Coca-Cola shows, where you see in the 60s they try to find every ethnic group together. That's how my classrooms were. Allah is my witness. Huh?
You learn at your own pace, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm black, and me and the other African American child. This was back in the early 70s. They put us in a corner and gave us a little math game in the box that we opened, and we never saw the classroom. The class was over there at the table.
Wow.
Yeah, until my mother asked. My mother was inquisitive. She asked, "Well, what'd y'all do today? How did it?" And she discovered every day we sit in the corner with the math game and eat the beads. And then I told her I was scared, because there was these little smooth green beads. And I told her, I said, I had one in my mouth, Mommy, and I swallowed it. And she's like, you'll be all right. It come out. And I was scared. I thought I was going to be in trouble. They didn't miss the bead, because they didn't miss us, Yeah. It was a mess. And then when they finally moved me to the table, so maybe I never thought about it that deep. Maybe they moved. Maybe my mother went there and complained, and they finally moved me to the table. Then it was a diverse group, different age, and it was Caucasians, and I'm sitting there, a little Caucasian, and they had a lot of general conversation like this. They talked about what happened on TV until the teacher sat at the same table until the teacher started his lesson, and he would usually focus one-on-one. Although we're at a table, he would focus one-on-one and move from person to person. And he may have talked to me, but I don't recall. But I was one of the smaller people, younger people at the table. And I remember a little Caucasian boy was talking about Archie Bunker and blah, blah, blah. That was a popular show. And, you know, he known for being a bigot and this and that. And then I chimed in because I had watched it too. And I was laughing and I said, yeah, so the little Caucasian boy, he was the other. I wasn't the smallest. I was one of the smallest. He was the other. It might have been me and him. He was close to my size, little guy. And he said, you're supposed to watch Good Times. He said, you watch Archie Bunker, you don't watch that. You're supposed to watch. And I had never heard anything like that. And Allah's my witness. In my conscious mind, that was my first experience with racism. I had never heard nobody tell me because I'm black, I'm supposed to do anything in my life. But I was a little boy, you know. Huh? Oh, I'm guessing, you know, I know who didn't tell me that. So on his flip coin, that's probably who told him that. Our parents. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so yeah, that was a beautiful situation. That was an extreme situation in my life as a young man. And then when my father became the leader, I walked through the halls of the University of Islam, and I'm not sure if Imam Mohammed had officially changed the name to Clara Muhammad School. He may not have. But on the first day of school, they all had us out on the parking lot, all different groups and ages and I remember certain brothers that I could still know, and to this day, they were older classes. And so I'm sitting at the table. I ain't never even seen this many African American men, young men and women. So we sitting out in the parking lot at all these tables. I guess they were getting the classrooms together or whatever. I have no idea. But I was a youngster and I was sitting out there with them. And I was listening to them talk. I was hearing all kind of stuff I ain't never heard in my life. Just bizarre. You know, a person that, not from my experience, if stepped in there, they would say they heard a lot of racist concept, but it was like a culture. This culture is not here. Now, you might go to the Nation of Islam and find that culture, but it's something when it comes from a sincere place and from children, right. And it was mind-boggling, but it also was enlightening and inspiring as an African American. I was like, wow. Because I slowly was starting to feel, wow, that we have power and superiority. As a little guy, I registered that because of their blatant disrespect for white folks. It wasn't mean. It was what, I believe it was what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad intended. I'm not sure if it's what Farad intended, but it was what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad intended, was to show the ugliness of racial arrogance and race, supremacy, race, white supremacy on the flip side, without the violence, Yes, sir.
Something that's very interesting. I was talking about Caucasian from Princeton, and I heard the Imam say, he said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did more for the Caucasians than he did for us. But this Caucasian told me this too. This had to be Allah. We're talking, and he says to me, well, I think the most important figure in American history was Malcolm X. I said, well, who was Malcolm, the teacher? Right. He said, well, I never thought about that. But they know that.
Oh, yeah.
The big Caucasians know that Honorable Elijah Muhammad took that tail off of them, and that made them feel ashamed of being there. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And, I agree 100%. And those of us that have friends like Imam Rasul, I don't know if they're friends, but have held conversations in the public that ordinary people, down-to-earth people, and many Caucasians ordinary people, down to earth people, recognize each other.
Yeah.
So when they see you, they gravitate towards you. And when they speak to you and you don't look stupid, like you're scared of a white man or scared of a white woman or don't know how to answer or what to answer, when you speak freely and intelligently, oh, they strike up a conversation. I used to go shopping just for fun because I said, first person make eye contact with me, I'm going to say something to them. I say something to them and say, you know, so-and-so. And they better not engage me because I'm going to talk to them until they tell me to get out their face, you know. Because I like people. I love talking to people, you know. And so I talk to people all the time. And quite often you'll find Caucasians talking to you and they know your sincerity. And if you let them, now I go under disguise too most of the time. I'm not wearing a kufi. And when I talk to somebody, it's in my nature. I can't avoid, because when you're talking down-to-earth people recognize God as a high authority. So when you mention God, I either slip and say Allah, or I either say, well, I'm a Muslim, and so, you know, it tells us in the Holy Quran, or I say, well, you know, I might not say to mention the Holy Quran, because I don't want to hit them with too many things that's going to distract their mind from they talking to their neighbor. If you say Muhammad, Allah, the Quran, they go bam, bam. That's like you done body slam, you know, slapped them, punched them in the teeth, and body slammed them. And then you got to pick them back up and say, I didn't mean to do that, you know. So I talk to them, but I get a sense of almost like a sincere apologetic, like we know and we thank God that He put a man or whoever in the life of you African American people to do whatever they did to you to produce you. Yes. Because I know that you're a good person, you know, and I appreciate you, and sincere, and it pains me to know your history, you know, what whites have done to us as a people, and I can sense it, and I can feel it, but they don't engage you in that conversation, but because they don't know. They know, but they you know, they don't talk about it. And I believe that's a positive note. That's a positive thing for them, for their healing, and for them to be able to advance from racial supremacy so quickly. Those are the ones that don't talk about it in their houses, and they don't talk about it in their children. They try to change it in the overall society. And I think that helps speed them along. Because if you get too much detailed information about your wrong in the past, because Allah created you to have peace and happiness in your life, as a human being, you're going to shut some of that down and say, well, Allah is going to have to judge me. You know, you can tell me about all the wrong I did all day long or what I should do, but what can I do about it today? Right. You know, that was 400 years of horrible things that happened that if you wrote a book, I could never finish the book in my lifetime. So they can't deal with it the way we deal with it. But if they have a peaceful conversation with us, you can say, by the way, and you can drop a little bit of some of that on us, on them, you know, especially when they go to say, well, black people are equal. How come they don't just go out and get a job or do something for themselves? I say, wait a minute. I said, do you know y'all bred us like puppies and dogs? The black people that came from Africa, I said, you know that wolf that came from Africa, do a Chihuahua look like him? A little bit, but he ain't a wolf. Or a pit bull or Rottweiler. Said now that's just on a physical level. Now if you took that dog and his nature, he will remain who he is. But we're not animals. The human being is a spirit. So if you take a human being out of his nature, do you think he can ever become a human being again unless he comes in contact with human beings? Another human being? He can't. You make me an animal? I don't know how to be a human being. I need another human being to help me become a human being. Yeah. So, and that's what they systematically did to us. They didn't allow us to be human by denying us certain things. So I would say, well, you know, our women were raped for 400 years. And then I immediately say, because they're thinking like, well, everybody wasn't raped. You know, they thinking in their mind. I said, how many of them did y'all allow them to select a mate or husband for them? And so how many of them remained virgins to their death? All of them was raped. And I hear a majority of the males were castrated.
That's right.
Yeah. And then they bred us for our physical features or for our physical abilities, and had one guy and made him just a sick baby maker, you know, a stud like an animal, yeah. And everybody else they cut, and then wouldn't allow them, because even the cut I hear don't get rid of the urge or whatever. So they really tortured them. I don't know. I just heard that.
Yeah.
I got a cat that I got from the shelter, and they cut him. It's sad. It still hurt me when I see that image. I looked behind his tail. I said, "What?" And my wife told me. She said, "Yeah, they fixed him." I said, "I wasn't paying attention." And they neutered, whatever, cut him, and there ain't nothing back there. But he still had an urge, because I got female cat in the house too, you know. But he's not that interested. But he's, you know, yeah, he's selected. So to think that a big percentage of us, a majority of us, when they were babies, were taken from their mothers, wasn't even allowed to love the motherly love, and it was used as and they still do that today.
Yeah.
I hear that when they catch the Mexicans immigrating,
Yeah.
you know, sneaking over the border or whatever, first thing they do is detain the children separate from the mothers.
Right.
That's the same thing. You know, same thing Pharaoh did. He killed the men so that the women would live in fear, and basically they would inherit the women. So then they would raise this race of people up like they raised us race of people up. We look like those people, but we're their sons and daughters. So I say, you know, my ancestor, I tell them a story about the ancestor. My ancestor had 2 wives, one a slave and one inherited him. And I said, that situation our situation is a reflection of that, of our sick ancestor that would do that to his own blood, you know, disrespect his own blood and exploit it for money, for profit, for free labor. So I most of them know that, so I don't usually go that way. But I will say, if they say anything, I kind of listen for any dissension in their voice, and I address that, because it's almost no topic of dissension that they can any stigma they try to put on us as a black people, that you can't reverse it back and say, but look what you did to us for 400 years. Now we trying to get over that. How can you have an appetite for community life and for building and for unity if for 400 years you was denied that? You know, we not like the rest of the world. We're new people, and every time we try to grow on the basis that God created, what God usually inspires a new people is some strong emotional experience in their life that they are identified with, and it's often not a positive identification. You know, I mean, it's, you know, the Moses and the Jews that left Egypt and they established themselves, you know, and African tribes probably go back hundreds, if not millions of years, and the Indians and the Asians, they have their histories, and they can tell you the beginning of their life. And many of them, their life is, their beginnings is a struggle and a great hardship and a great difficulty that they survived because they came together. We got the same situation. We survived the plantations in the South and around the world, the slavery. So that's what makes us an African American people, that we were isolated from the human family, and we had to rely on ourselves to become a new people all over again. And so we are a new people, whether you want to be or not. It's hard because of what we went through. Is one of the most horrific experiences in the history of human beings on this earth. Like, there was not in history. We don't think the savage, if they were savages, I'm pretty sure the cavemen were more civilized than the slave owners that owned us. I'm sure they were. They were. Ain't no way. The more they teach us about primitive societies, the more I understand that primitive societies were closer to their human nature.
Yes.
That the devil lorded over us for 400 years. I mean, Satan himself, the one that's written. You want to know who the devil is? Look in the Bible, and look in any scripture, even before the Bible, where they wrote about the horrible demons and the things they feared in life. You know, what they prayed to the cloud god or the wind or the rain or whatever they prayed to, what they was praying to protect him from. Well, he lived only yards from us. You know, as we slept at night, we knew that he was near, you know, and the devil was going to always be there. And so we were oppressed in a way that no other people had ever been oppressed in the history of the world. So we don't have the desire to unite a dhuhr. Okay, so I'm sure we're going to make dhuhr prayer, and we had a adhan call. And I just want to thank everybody, Imam Hameen Rasul. I'm looking at Imam Farrakhan, got a big old smile on his face, and he's still here, but many of you all had to catch flights or leave. Many of the presenters are not here, but I also want to wish them safe journeys back home and to thank them for their presentation, and may Allah give them the full reward and the blessings of this sacred month, the holy month of Ramadan. And I pray that Allah rewards us all for our sacrifices and service to Him, and accept our service and our prayers, inshallah. Ameen.
Brother Wallace,
Can we-
can I mention one thing to you about the Sister Clara Muhammad schools and the University of Islam? Go back to that. It was the University of Islam first, and I remember when your grandfather sent for Sister Seta Aziz, the father, they had a little grocery store around the corner on Reeves Place in Newark, New Jersey, and he sent for her to come to Chicago to help them to get accredited for the
Clara Muhammad School?
for Clara Muhammad.
Allahu Akbar.
And that's when it changed from University of Islam to Clara Muhammad.
You know what? I kind of remember that. Imam Muhammad, it was like we were in a living room, a big living room with a father that was doing big things and great things for his family. And we were all there. He talked, he spoke to us about that. I kind of remember the accreditation. I remember that being a big topic or a big point in the history of our school. Yeah, yeah.
So
Alhamdulillah.
University of Islam, then Clara Muhammad.
Yeah, so yeah, I remember the University of Islam, but when I reflect back, I remember I went to Clara Muhammad School, but when he came, he put the brakes on a lot of things, and he changed a lot of things. But it was gradual. He didn't do it immediately.
Right?
It was gradual. So I could say I went to the University of Islam. I know I was in school with hundreds of students. There was, and I remember when I first went to class, my parents dropped me off. I remember my mother dropped me off, but it was always somebody that drove us. You know, my father became the leader of the security brothers. I'm not sure who was driving. My mother didn't even drive. She drove late. My father had been the leader for a couple of years before she got a driver's license. So I remember she walked me in the building, and I guess somebody pointed me to the classroom. I don't remember walking me all the way to the class. But I remember walking all the way to the class, and I don't know if it was dark in the hallway, but the lights weren't brightly lit, and it didn't seem that the class was brightly lit. But I remember walking, and I couldn't have been, I was short. So if I was 7, 8 years old, well, Barack, I probably wasn't tall as Barack. He's about this high. So, but because I remember looking at the children, and they all had on ties and jackets and short hair, and they were all looking at me. Hey, I'd been around bigger crowds of young people before, but I ain't never had them all looking at me. So I'm like, I already got nerves and anxiety because I'm going to a new school, a new class, and now I really am like, my senses, you know, like if a feather had fell on the other side of the room or something from some secret corridor, I'd have heard. I probably would have seen it and heard it. My senses were heightened, and hair was on the back of my neck, and I could feel every step I was taking to go sit down. The teacher pointed to my desk. Oh no, the teacher introduced me, and I can't hear her voice. I just hear silence. When I look at it, when I think of it, I remember her introducing me, and the children greeted me. And I sat down, but I also remember one of the reasons, one of the things that they didn't say nothing, but they were so intrigued because I was, you know, the Imam's son, and also they probably was a little bit puzzled because I walked in with an afro. My hair was at least this big. So, I didn't know that. I didn't know they was looking at my afro too. Alhamdulillah. Yes, sir.
Because most of the students before that are older than me, I know for the fact I'm right on the crossover. When
You might have been sitting out there that day.
No, I'm a little older, but I was on the crossover from the change from Mohammed University to Claire Mohammed.
Right.
So I was actually one of the first graduates out of that name, Claire
Alhamdulillah.
Mohammed. But what I want to say, all of the students from Mohammed University, except for maybe the 3 years before me, they were catching hell when they would go to the public schools, and they were being embarrassed. They come out saying they're high school students, and they were putting them back in the 8th grade and things like that. So a lot of the alumni before me, that's what made them lose the spirit to be around the nation. They were embarrassed when they go out, and they would be told, you got to be put back in the 8th grade. We don't recognize Muhammad University. So Imam Muhammad saved the spirit.
Oh wow, yeah.
And actually, I'm one of the first to even benefit. I never went to the public school until the sophomore year in high school. When we left Claire Muhammad, because 9th grade was the highest level at that time. And we were part of a small group, maybe 3 classes before me, maybe, where when we went to a public school system, they respected and accepted that I was on the 9th. They didn't make me take tests and everything.
I was young, but I remember those issues. I remember those.
And if they did not meet up to the criterion for the public school system, they literally were insulted regardless of their age.
Okay, but then after your era, like when my daughter went, my oldest daughter is 54 now. She was taught by Sister Umilkai Sharif from out of Patterson, and when she graduated and left, she had to go into the public school because that's the highest grade they went.
Exactly.
It's Sister Muhammad. They skipped her. Yeah, they skipped her.
Yeah, I remember. I remember all that, and I especially remember because a child knows his father. I remember the emotion in his voice when he announced that we were accredited. And when you mention that, as I reflect back, that I can bear witness to the the energy or the I guess the anxiety or energy or whatever that surrounded that time. So we have a very rich history. And in Allah, we have to bear witness that Allah has been with us the whole way to here today, and we have to continue to have faith and be grateful and pray to Allah and thank Him for all His mercy and the great blessings that He has given us, and to know that the future is bright and the future. And if we just look a little ways behind us, we can see the future is, God willing, is going to continue to be brighter and brighter, inshallah. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Thank all of you for the Ramadan session. I thank the committee for their support. And inshallah, we're looking forward to next year. So we're going to close with Al-Fatiha. أعوذ من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط مستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Ramadan Mubarak.